Hi, this is Tim Hinton from the Marching Roundtable and from marchingartseducation.com. This January, the Cavaliers presented a masterclass experience at their 2019 auditions, and I had the wonderful privilege to get to speak with three of the gentlemen that were there. They had an amazing set of clinicians, and on this interview, I speak with Chris Martin, who's the principal trumpet in the New York Philharmonic, Mike Martin, who's the brass arranger for the Cavaliers and also a trumpet with the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and then Freddy Martin, the legendary founder and director of the Spirit of Atlanta, who was also working with the Cavies. Please be patient. There's a little bit of sound issues at the very beginning, but that goes away quickly. I know you'll enjoy hearing from these wonderful men and what they were doing with the Cavaliers.
Our hope as a family is always to kind of bring a little bit of a difference to the activity that we feel like we're fortunate to be in a unique position to. Chris and I both play professionally in our and Dad has obviously been such a activity for so many decades. That's the main goal of this weekend was just to kind of merge those two worlds as best that we could. And most important, our guys at this callback camp, we see kind of the most auditionees at the time. We've got about 130 brass players again. We wanted to give all of those students the exposure to some good friends of Chris's and that they probably wouldn't otherwise get in such an intimate environment and certainly not in the context of a drum corps rehearsal. So, but juxtaposing those two works together was the goal, and also
and also showing that they're not really that different.
Yeah, showing that they're not that different, and expose the weird activity that we all love and we're all part of to these players as well, in a way that they not really see it. So it was a great success all around. The artists that we had in had a great time. The guys really just ate up all the information and seemed to be a big success. So we're pretty happy.
That's wonderful. Do you want to talk about what the specific things you were talking to the students about and what the master classes were about?
Well, Chris, Colin, and Gail, and Dennis, when they came in, they kind of, asked what the things fundamentally are that we've been working on this weekend. And for the most part, we've been working on a lot of articulation, just method, single tongue articulation, some double tonguing. So we asked them to speak to that in terms of the very basics and foundation of production, of just creating sound on a brass instrument. So, if you want to speak to any of what you were doing.
We spent about 3 hours with the trumpets, and mostly we were talking about breathing, the most efficient way to produce your best sound, attack, single tonguing, double tonguing. Those were the technical things we talked about, and in the course of all of that, we came around again to this idea that what they're doing in the Cavaliers horn line and what I'm doing in the New York Philharmonic horn line isn't really that different. It's to project your best sound from a football field to the press box, and to project my best sound from the back of a large stage with only 3 or 4 trumpet players at the most, 3 or 4 trombones and a tuba, to the back of a 3,000 seat concert hall really aren't that different. The concepts are the same, the application's the same kind of breath, the same kind of buzzing, the same kind of articulation. And through all the technical ideas, this concept that music is a direction and music is a line. And we were talking about lip slurs and going up and going down and trying to get the high notes not to be so bright and not to be so pinched. And there are technical ways to help with that, with breath support, with tongue art, with direction of the line. But the first and most important thing is that the trumpet players have, number one, an idea of what they want to sound like, and number two, the confidence to deliver that to their audience. And so we talked a lot about that. I would play their exercise, they'd play it back, and we did that a lot of that back and forth. And I think it was good for them to hear, someone who's been doing. I've been in an orchestra now almost 22 years, and to hear someone who's done that for that many, well over, thousands of concerts, is helpful for them. It's helpful for me. I think also to to meet kids who are so dedicated and so focused on a goal was very, for me, very refreshing and encouraging.
Dad, you were kind of drifting and observing each of the masterclass sectionals. What did you notice from?
Educationally, it's always best for a brass student to hear the very best sounds that can be made with their instrument. And the thing that I noticed most was in each of the sections, whether it was mellophones or tuba or trumpet or baritone, as they heard the professional players play, our students are talented enough to take that oral information and convert it into the way they adjusted their playing. So every section got better, not only from the verbal instruction, but from the musical instruction of play this way, hear this way. And I really believe that one of the most important things that any brass player can get is the ability to hear the very best sound made on their instrument, so they have a model to pursue. And our kids, I thought, did a really good job of that today. Certainly our guest artists demonstrated what needed to be given to the students. And hearing their improvement, especially all the way through the end of the rehearsal afternoon, I thought that they absorbed that just ideally.
So, Mike, I know you have this amazing connection with these two gentlemen, right? Obviously, but the idea that the Cavaliers would bring this caliber of performers, all the clinicians you have in, for them to be able to hear that. Because Freddie, I completely agree. When I was a band director, I felt like that was the most important thing, was making sure my students heard those great sounds. I remember the first time I heard a fantastic saxophone player, which was when I was in college, and my entire concept of what a saxophone was and could be shifted in that instant. So I think it's really powerful. So the fact that you're bringing in these professionals on trumpet, trombone, horn, and tuba, for them to hear those sounds, I agree, Freddie, that seems to me to be incredibly powerful. And you're saying you could hear the students make that response and change their playing?
Yeah, very consistently. The play to the students and let them play back. Every time that happened, the students absorbed the oral information, converted it into their own skill set, and they got better. Their attacks got better, their sustained qualities changed. Any rough sounds on the edges seemed to go away. It was really remarkable just to see what was and hear what was going to those rehearsals.
I worked a lot with the lower trumpets. We were playing Scherzo from Mendelssohn Midsummer Night's Dream that Michael arranged, and fairly difficult piece, fast in 3/8, a lot of 16th notes, a lot of tonguing, and I was working with the low trumpets on playing staccato and playing articulations in the low register of the trumpet, and I told them, I said to them, look, the guys on first over there, they've got the easy job. I know, it's my job. My job's easy, to play short and light and fast when you're up in the high in the staff. That's easy. Anybody can do that. You guys have the hard part. And so we would play back and forth, low C's, staccato, and 16th notes. And they improved and they got better. But it also reminded me how hard it is to do that. It's actually really hard to play low and short, and I'm really glad I don't have to do that very often. So it was fun for me to see them listening and engaging and us pushing each other and challenging each other. So it was, I think, a really great experience for everybody.
So, Chris, what I think a lot of people may think is very cool about this is I don't think they would expect, someone of the caliber, I don't want to say this the wrong way, a performer of your caliber, principal in a major orchestra, you're at a drum corps camp. I think it's super cool. Like, I know that drum corps is not a lesser art form and that these kids deserve the very best instruction, but I don't think that that's always the way it's thought about. So can you talk about why you're here giving your time to these students? And why drum corps is worth the trouble, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for those of us who grew up around it, certainly, but for people who participated in it, who understand it, I don't think it's a question. But I understand your point that there are those who would wonder why. And for me, I can say confidently that I wouldn't be where I am certainly if not for the family I was lucky to be born into. And a huge part of that family and my experience growing up was drum and bugle corps. My earliest memories that I can think of are Spirit of Atlanta practices and marching band practices with Dad's band, and so those formative experiences. I mean, truly, some of the earliest sounds I can remember are high soprano playing, high G bugle playing. G bugle high notes. There's nothing like it. Like, it's burned into my mind forever. And I think my love for music came first from that. Mahler and Beethoven and those things came later, certainly, but my first love for music really comes from this activity. And my own experience in it, besides just growing up when I marched, was an incredibly positive one for my own trumpet playing, for myself as a young person to gain confidence, moving from growing up in Georgia, then going to a conservatory in New York State, and to gain the confidence of performing every night all summer long with the drum and bugle corps. That was an experience none of my friends in the conservatory had ever had when they came. And so I think, and you couple that now, I think, with the quality of instruction and the kind of pedagogy the level of pedagogy that's happening now, I think it's a no-brainer. I think you'll see this kind of thing happening a lot more often.
Well, I think the fact that the three of you are sitting in this room together at a Cavaliers camp, like it's like it like puts the period on that sentence. Exactly. Here you guys are at the very top of your game, sharing this great instruction. So I'm going to ask this question another way now, because I asked people on social media that I was going to get to talk to you guys, and what do they want to ask? And one of the a band director from Florida asked this question. I'm just going to share it with you. Sort of another way to ask the same question. There is this sort of old myth that being in drum corps can hurt your chops, right? Somehow it can affect your playing in a negative way. And she says that she still runs up against private lesson teachers who tell their students, don't play drum corps. They think you're going to develop some bad habits, whatever. So you guys are sitting here saying, no, it's really the same. So what would you say to those people? How do we get them over that hump? I think that's there's a lot of old stuff from drum corps that's still with us. And I think that's one of those things. So I love that we're having this conversation. I wanted to ask you, what would you say that, like, especially for maybe a horn player, which seems to be like they get the roughest of this, I think. And I'm a horn player, so I can say that. But what do you say to someone who's confronting a private lesson teacher who's worried about it somehow hurting their ability to play with correct pedagogy, as you're saying?
We actually had that specific question today from one of our mellophone players, who's also a horn player, that he asked Gail Williams directly and said, the transition from horn to mellophone gets kind of the worst rap when it comes to the benefits or detriments of doing drum corps and wanting to be a professional player, especially kind of in the orchestral or solo realm. And Gail just flat out said what we all believe and what we all feel, and that's brass playing is brass playing. Whether you have to move around and do it and deal with the physical stress of the acrobatics and physicality of moving around on a field and doing contemporary drum corps, or you're sitting in a chair or standing in front of a piano or in front of an orchestra. Those are both still things you need to overcome. But if the quality of your instruction and your fundamentals are sound to the point that you're going to be a proficient player and you're going to be successful anyway, then the environment is not so important. Yes, it can be more traumatic and the hours are longer in a drum corps day, and there is a lot of playing. But again, if you're playing correctly and the information that you're getting is at a high enough level, then at the end of the day, as she said, it's brass playing is brass playing. So it's still air creating a vibration, and if your corners are firm and your apertures relaxed, then you can put that setup in any situation, and not just survive but succeed and thrive and improve.
In our history, there have been certainly those times when the drum corps activity was not taught at the same level that it is now, but that's passed by some 25 or 30 years. And I think anyone who's had a student march in great drum corps sees that student come back with better fundamentals, stronger fundamentals, and hopefully the mental attitude of cooperation that drum corps should generate, so that they become even more productive member of the ensemble. As far as mellophone versus French horn, the finest bands in the country, not drum corps, but the finest bands in the country have their French horn players play mellophone. Same mellophone, same mouthpiece that we use. And the reality is that strengthens that player. And in band programs, if they are truly allowing a student to play a French horn mouthpiece with the shank and a mellophone, or march a French horn, that is a frightening thing for me, because I'm a French horn player. And the French horn mouthpiece is so small with such sharp edges that it's really physically painful, because I marched French horn in college band. And so what I do is I ask my students, if you play mellophone through a marching band rehearsal, can you go home and practice your French horn? And they say yes. And I've also said to those students who have a mellophone with a French horn mouthpiece and a shank, can you go home and practice your French horn? And their answer is no, because the stress level is so extraordinary. So my hope is that band directors understand that the mouthpiece is not what's damaging a student who plays mellophone. The mellophone mouthpiece is designed for marching, so it's padded in a different way, and it's really great for our kids. And it's really great for my French horn players. So I feel very confident that drum corps strengthens all of those positive things that we can do in every section.
I would say that the positive attitude, the sense of cooperation, the sense of confidence, but also being a part of something greater than yourself, that's the greatest asset I think drum corps gives. But in terms of music and chops, I mean, to be honest with you, my chops that I can recall after a day of rehearsals and playing a show with Spirit, it really didn't feel all that different from playing a dress rehearsal of Mahler 7 and then a concert of Mahler 7 at night with the Philharmonic. It's pretty much the same feeling. You know, it really, you kind of want some ice and some Advil after both of them. It's kind of how it works, you know.
Yeah.
But it teaches you, it builds strength, obviously, it builds confidence, but it also teaches you recovery. It teaches your body recovery, it teaches your mind how to recover the next day. And that's what a life in music is. Whether you're a performer, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a band director, you know, long days are long days, and you need stamina, you need to maintain your focus, and you need to be able to get up the next day and recover, refocus, and do it all over again. That's what it means. That's what builds success in life, no matter what you do.
I think that, and to your question about how to overcome that stigma a little bit, I mean, I think if there's occasion if there's occasion and opportunity for a teacher who has any kind of doubt, and if they might happen to see this interview, you know, I would challenge and invite you to come to not just come to a show, but come before the show to the parking lot and listen to all of these great press programs now warm up. You know, that's still one of my favorite things about being involved in this activity.
That's kind of the most fun.
Yeah. Even though I am, you know, very much invested in the competitive success of the Cavaliers, I'm still a fan, and I love it when we have different orders at shows, and if we go on earlier or later enough, and I get to go watch other corps that I'm a big fan of warm up. You know, I love going to watch Carolina Crown play. You know, who doesn't? The Blue Devils, Vanguard, you know, Blue Stars. The cadets, all of these programs are the teaching that's going on now across the board at all of these places is incredible. You know, so I would challenge them to come check it out and see the virtuosity that is asked of the players now, and also the overall performance experience that these students get to have. You know, like the costuming now, the props, the choreography, the drill, the music, all of it is it's so far beyond what even I did 12 years ago when I marched. it's something that's truly special and unique, and it's going to benefit them no matter what their career is for the rest of their life. So.
Wow, what fantastic answers! I've got to make sure every band director in the world sees this somehow. That's going to be my new mission. Those were such great answers. So I have two more questions. Chris, you may not like this question, but I'm going to ask you. If somebody's watching this, they're a student and they want to be you one day, they want to be a principal performer in an orchestra, or they want to be lead soloist with the Blue Devils or Cavaliers or whatever, what would be the number one bit of advice you would tell them?
I'd say number one, find the best teacher you can, and number two, learn the basics, learn the fundamentals, learn the Arvin book, learn Schlossberg, learn stamp method, Chikowitz flow studies, Clark studies, Earl Irons flexibility studies, and really start from the basics, because every great player, every single one that I know, whether it's been Phil Smith or Bud Herseth or Wayne Bergeron or Wynton Marsalis, every one of them started with good fundamentals and good basics. Make sure your embouchure is solid and strong. Make sure you understand proper breathing, proper articulation. Start from there and make sure you get a good teacher to teach you that. And the best teacher may not be the person with the flashiest resume or the best gig. Sometimes your band director may be the best teacher you could possibly get. So start there. I would say if you don't have a teacher, start with your band director. And the other thing I would say is two more things. The next one is practice every day. If you really want to make it as a player, you have to play every single day. And whatever day you start and commit yourself, it's too late. I mean, I didn't decide I really wanted this until I was almost 16 years old, which is really late. That's really late. And I was behind a lot of my friends who came to the conservatory in terms of repertoire I knew and solos I played and recitals I played. I played a lot of band concerts and a lot of drum corps and a lot of marching band shows, but I hadn't played a lot of recitals with piano. So I had a lot of catching up to do. So it's never too late, but there's no time like now. And make sure you're playing every day. So you go on vacation with your family. If you go to Disney World, the horn goes with you. If you go on, I told the Cavaliers guys tonight. I said, my wife, she loves me, but sometimes she thinks I'm a little much because the horn goes everywhere. If we go to the beach for vacation, the horn goes. If we go family vacation, the horn goes. If we go, when we went to the hospital for my daughter to be born, the horn went to the hospital. And I had Zarathustra coming up not too long after, so you got to practice. So that's the main thing. And you don't have to practice 4 hours straight, 6 hours straight, but you got to practice every day. You got to practice regularly, and you got to practice the fundamentals. So those are the most important things.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. So my last question is for Freddy, and really for all three of you. So Freddy, since you're like a drum corps legend, drum corps Hall of Fame, I'm wondering, do you always have an entourage when you show up at drum corps events? Do they treat you, is it embarrassing when you get fawned over all the time? And then I want to know how you guys deal with having this legend in your family, and like, how do you negotiate all of that?
It takes forever to go anywhere. If we're going to some kind of drum corps event and Dad is with us, we don't have plans after. We don't do that because we will miss those plans because 900 people know who he is, no matter what state or country we go to if it's drum corps affiliated.
I took my wife to her first drum corps show a couple of years ago outside Chicago, and she said, "So what time do you think we'll be home?" I said, "We may not get home. We may just ride the bus to the next town and then get home. It might be faster."
The focus of everything I've ever done is about kids and improving their opportunities in life to grow as musicians or to grow as people. And if some personal accolades come from that, that's only a byproduct of what's important. Whether it's my guys, the most important people in my life, of course, are my children, but someone else's children. I'm in my 48th year of teaching, and lots of kids. And part of what comes is age. I've been around a long time, so I've met a lot of people. So these guys have to put up with those moments when we get stopped at times in shows and talk to people. But the whole focus has never been about anything to do with personal me. It had to do with what can we do to make things better for our students? What can we do in the spirit of Atlanta to make life better, to create a better competitive entity, which is the reward that the students look for? So to this day, that's basically what I do. Working here with the Cavaliers certainly is joyous. Working with staffers who are 2 generations my junior is really special because they're all kids to me. Not just the ones in the line, but the ones who are doing teaching. So the joy that I get from any of this is not personal reputation or anything of the sort. It's just simply, what can we do to make kids' lives better, and what can we do through those things to give them great experiences? And that's what really matters most. So it's kind of DCI to put me in the Hall of Fame. That was certainly one of the great honors of my life. But the special part of what we do is those students, the guys that we'll see tonight when we go to rehearsal. That's what'll matter for those moments that we're there.
Well, that's absolutely wonderful and so well spoken. And all of you guys, thank you so much for talking with me and for being here for those students at all those levels. I think it's phenomenal that you guys are there, and it's so amazing that the Cavaliers are giving their students this opportunity to work with you guys and even just to meet you guys. So thanks for talking to me, and thanks for being there with those Cavalier students this weekend.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thanks for the time. Pleasure.
Awesome. Don't miss our interview with the Cavaliers brass staff from the masterclass experience at the 2019 auditions in their January camp. Give your group the edge by signing up for a membership at Marching Arts Education. Imagine what you and your staff could accomplish with this great professional development. Enter the field with confidence, knowing you've given your staff and your students every advantage possible.